Takes a second. All right, we are live. What's up, everyone? Back here at PILMMA Super Summit in San Antonio, and just finding the best people here on the floor to find out more about what they do, their stories, and hopefully get some good information for those folks watching. You run a law firm. We're looking for the best of the best, and today I got my friend here, Dr. Howie Golden. He's with Capital Financing at the bottom of your screen right there. And welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Cool. Yeah, I'm excited to kind of dive in because you do something that's a little more unique than some of the other vendors that are here and options that are out there. And so, yeah, let's just dive in and
do it
and talk about it. So introduce yourself, tell us more about Capital Financing, and we'll kind of get into some of the nitty gritty.
So I'm the CEO of Capital Financing based out of Atlanta. Been in this industry for 30 years, but been financing specifically since 2010. We focus and specialize in case expense and plaintiff financing.
Both sides.
Both sides, consumer and commercial.
I thought that was unique. Is there other companies that are doing that?
There are, but it's usually usually companies are going to focus on one of the sides, and how we approach both sides is what kind of makes us unique. We kind of fit a niche market within our own industry.
Interesting. So, you said kind of like a minute ago, you kind of disrupted in the market and when you came in. So what makes you all really unique and special for those folks, again, especially personal injury attorneys? So what makes you guys unique?
So we'll start with the consumer side, the plaintiff financing side. So we started out doing that in 2010. And when we came out, we had learned really quickly the problems that lawyers and the law firms were having with that industry. It was the Wild Wild West. Companies that were most likely doing that side of the business at that time were doing compounding interest models that were never capping. So at the end of the cases, it became an impediment to settle the cases. So there was not as many companies doing it, but the cost to borrow the money by a plaintiff was extraordinary. So when we came into the industry, we looked into this, we found that there was a massive flaw in that side. So we came out and said, we got to do something very different. We got to do something that's more plaintiff friendly. So we really wanted to disrupt the industry, as the word you used. And what we did was we decided to put a capped interest model in place, which was unheard of in the industry, and not have a compounding interest model. But when we decided to cap the interest, we not only capped it, but we did it at 12 months. So I knew I was disrupting the industry when the biggest companies in the industry were contacting me and asking me who I was.
Got a couple phone calls.
What was I doing? And telling me that we're going to ruin the industry and you're going to be out of business in 6 months. So I'm happy to say and proud to say 16 years later in over 30 states, we're still doing that business model. The case financing came a little bit later. And although case financing has been a financial service for law firms for some time, it's been mostly a line of credit model where institution, whether it be banks or others that borrow from banks, would provide a law firm the line of credit, which is a recourse product. We came in and did something very different. We came in and looked at the case level. We looked at investing at the case, not the law firm. We can do that at a minimum of $1,000, where a lot of these other institutions, there's a minimum line of credit. And we also do it non-recourse, which means that there's no risk. The lawyers would know this. There's no risk to the plaintiff. And the law firms that are typically putting up and fronting their capital in cases, we're doing it where there's no risk to them. So if they were to lose their case in trial, they were to get a defense verdict, we take all the losses. So we are essentially become the bank for the law firm, so they don't have to continue to be the bank with no barriers. There's no barriers of entry. If they have an IRS tax lien, any kind of imperfections, they're a new law firm. They just came out, they started their law firm, they have no history. You can't go and get a line of credit.
A bank's not giving you.
No one is. And so we don't have those as benchmarks, because as an investor in the case, we're just looking at the case merits to make those decisions justified by what they're actually asking us to invest capital wise.
Okay, interesting. All right, so you're looking at the case, not how good of a law firm or a lawyer
Well, no, those are
We'll see.
important because
Yeah.
we got to get paid from the lawyer.
Sure.
That is actually more of a criteria for us,
Okay,
who
got
the lawyer is. But the merits of the case, who we work with, are both important. What
Got it.
is not important is necessarily how long the firm has been around.
Sure.
Collateralization of their cases, how many cases they have, how much the value of their cases are. Those are benchmarks that a lot of the other companies doing lines of credit would pretty much be looking at. I don't compete necessarily with lines of credit, because when you do something that's non-recourse and you do it at the case level, it creates a whole different change of philosophy and strategy for a law firm.
I mean, it makes a lot of sense. I was talking about this earlier. You know, I had a client of mine that was pretty strapped, you know, dumping hundreds of thousands into like a case.
Yes.
And not knowing what to do. And I own a business and I've seen a lot of things. So I was trying to just offer him help, but I don't know your company, don't know the solutions out there, because I don't run a law firm. But it was like, have you looked at this? Have you looked at that? Like, he's just dumping his own cash trying to keep this thing going. And they've been around a long time.
Yeah.
You know, they have a lot of history. They've been very successful. But I was kind of interested in the fact that they had gotten to that place where they're like, I don't know how much more how we can carry this.
That's right.
And I didn't really know a lot of the solutions that are out there.
Well, you've just tapped into.
And I'm sure there's a lot of lawyers that don't know that.
So a lot of the lawyers don't know what they don't know within this. There's a status quo, and lawyers have been doing the same thing for 50 years within this industry, and it's never been challenged. They were taught to do it a certain way. Contingency lawyers are the only legal profession that does not get a retainer from their clients.
Yeah.
They are investing their own income into cases, giving their client an interest-free loan for months to years.
Yeah.
You mentioned something you didn't say the two words that I like to use, cash flow.
Yes. Yeah.
The problem with 8 out of 10 law firms that is not typically discussed amongst them, they talk about their verdicts, their settlements, how many cases they got last month, all these wonderful, their revenues, but they don't talk about cash flow. And cash flow is a dirty word, but because of the nature of the business model of contingency law, cash flow is a problem. So as more cases are being litigated throughout the country, what happens is that the runway to settle cases takes longer. The cost to litigate cases, vendors that are charging experts are charging so much more money. So firms that are not as well capitalized are at a significant disadvantage in a contingency model. And that is a problem when your adversary is the insurance company.
Yeah.
They have all the time, they have all the money, where a law firm doesn't. So for a law firm to bring the most value, they need capital to invest in the case, and they don't have it. And then comes in the cash flow issue. So if you're tying up hundreds of thousands of dollars, sometimes millions in cases, and that money, you can't get it back, and you're having cash flow problems, you can go back and look at it and say, well, if I had that money back, I probably wouldn't have the problems I do. So what we do is part of the niche that we can do for a law firm is we can reimburse a law firm the capital that they have in the case that they wouldn't normally get back until the case settles.
Yeah.
Which we all don't know when that is. They would send us a ledger of the capital tied up in those cases and the case costs, and we would adjudicate or underwrite the case and make a decision, and we can prove it and wire the money right back into the lawyer's account, zero out their balance sheet. So a balance sheet is important because balance sheet, when a lawyer puts money into cases, it's an asset to a balance sheet. There is no tax advantage to having money tied up because it's not an expense.
Yeah.
So it creates an unhealthy environment for a law firm. So if they have no money on their balance sheet and it's on my balance sheet, they're healthier. And that's kind of the solutions that we're bringing. And that reimbursement component changes everything for a law firm.
Again, I have a business where we know how much we're making every month.
Yes.
It's predictable.
Yes.
Cash flow is huge. And that was the model that, we wanted to have and we have as an agency. But, as I learned more about, the contingency stuff, I said Leah Miller on, she does CPA, bookkeeping, and finances.
Perfect person to talk to.
For a personal injury. And she was just talking about, getting all these things together to be like, have a baseline. What are we going to make next month? How do we predict it? How can we have budgets? How much can the owners take when you have the big, good months versus looking for the future?
Right.
But then, you're limiting your firm if you don't have access to the capital. Which want to put more into marketing, advertising.
Couldn't say
But you're
it
like,
better.
well, we can't because we're funding our own cases.
That's right.
And so now we're going to take 10 years to grow to this level versus how can we shorten that down?
That's right.
Right.
So there's a lot of flaws in this industry that we've been able to uncover as we've been doing this. And you've just highlighted a bunch of those. If you're not tying up your capital as an interest-free loan for months to years, that money can actually, it's lost opportunity.
Yeah.
So I'm not funding the firm in their marketing efforts. What I'm doing is I'm funding their cases so they don't have to be the bank. So that money, that capital that they would normally have creates a healthier environment that they can use for operations. They can use for marketing
Better
efforts.
intake, sales, whatever.
It could be all of that. If you have a marketing budget, who doesn't want to have more of a marketing budget? And if they're not putting more into marketing, it's usually because they don't have the capital to do it. So when you're able to remove that barrier and reimburse the money that they can now put to work, now that interest, because I tell a lawyer, if you have hundreds of thousands of dollars in your cases and you're not charging interest, let me ask you a question. Would you take that money if you had that same money and would you put it into a Wells Fargo savings account that earns you no interest? And every lawyer would say, no, of course not. Why would I do that? Then why do you do it in your cases? It's the exact same thing. And you're taking risk where it's no risk in the Wells Fargo bank. And it's the first time they have an epiphany. It's a opening experience. It's a visceral response when a lawyer sees a whole dramatic change in how they can approach case financing, which they've never considered. Because again, there's a status quo. They do it because that's what's been done for 50 years and they know no other way of doing it.
Yep, 100%. No, it makes a lot more sense to me. And yeah, if you think about that example there,
yeah,
like, of course I'd never put it in a bank that's got 0.01% or whatever they give you.
Well, you also mentioned something too. Well, I'll let you finish. Go ahead and finish your.
You go ahead.
No, so when you were talking about the accountant before, the metrics about a firm, this is interesting conversation because I think it's a really good point. Because a lot of them have cash flow issues, what is astounding, a lot of them don't have controllers or a CFO in their office.
Yeah.
They don't know their own metrics of their cases. And what I mean by that is this. If I asked a law firm, if you signed up 100 cases this month, give me an idea of those 100 cases, how many are going to settle within 6 months, a year, 18 months, 2 years? What is your metrics on how long your caseload will close out? None of them have an idea. Now, when you think about that, that is a critical component for a contingency lawyer that has cash flow problems to know.
Yeah.
And they don't know.
Yeah.
And it's an epiphany that we kind of bring to them, and they are, oh my gosh, I never realized that. So yeah,
it exposes all the other issues.
Yes.
So if you got someone, again, I had Leah Miller, she's a client and a friend of mine, but having access to your numbers, understanding your numbers, digging into those things, then you can start to go, okay, marketing got this many leads. We closed them at this rate. That's a really low number. What's going on there? Well, let's look at intake. Let's look at all these other things start to become exposed that you can work on in your business. And so understanding your financials and your numbers and the cases and the values really starts to uncover so much stuff.
Yes. Borrowing other people's money is a very good approach to this industry. And it's not always been readily available for everybody. The lines of credit are available for the few, the smaller percentage of the industry. If you are a lawyer that started their own firm and you left a firm and you're a good lawyer and you are trying to build your firm and you get very good cases that come through your door that require capitalization to invest in those cases, and you don't have it, you have two choices. One of them is you can't build the case, which is not at all an option. And the other one is you can refer cases to other lawyers. And what that does is those other lawyers are well capitalized. They will cover the cost, but you're now taking a smaller percentage of a case that is yours, your client, because you are undercapitalized. That is a massive flaw in an industry that is unfair because he who has the most capital seems to win in this game of law. And that's what we're trying to expose. And that's what we're trying to, more importantly, solve. With our capital, we can level the playing field where a lawyer can go into litigation, well capitalized, get the best experts, get more experts, invest in the case properly without the risk, and not having to be conservative about how they invest in the case to hopefully get the ultimate outcome for their clients that the case deserves. So that is a unique strategy that we are able to approach and provide to a law firm.
I love it. It makes all the sense in the world. I think if, just quickly, if you think about other industries, real estate, like if I'm going to go buy a multifamily apartment complex, do you think I'm going to use my cash? No. You go get a bunch of people.
That's right.
They give you the money.
That's right.
You make the investment.
That's right.
You get the biggest return. You get their money back with a small return.
Mhm.
And that's how everyone does it.
That's
why
how
not do it in other
status
in the legal
status quo? When you're taught to do it a certain way. See, unfortunately, lawyers feel like it's their fiduciary obligation to cover their clients' case expenses.
Yeah.
But the truth is, there is not. There is no ethics rule in any bar association or the American Bar Association that says this is a requirement. Now, they do it for two reasons. Number one, their client cannot afford to invest their own money into a case that is necessary to bring value.
Sure.
And number two, it's the only way for the lawyer to bring value to the case by them putting their own money into it. So there's your conundrum. But if the logic is that the client can't afford it and it's money is needed to flush into the case to build it, why use your own? Why not use somebody like what we can provide?
Sure.
And that is the solution that was not around 7, 8, 9 years ago, but it is today. And it is a unique disrupting model that we are doing.
The biggest bar complaints, bad reviews, all the things, and what law firms mostly struggle with is when they are having an issue, ethics issue or whatever, is that they don't run a firm properly. They can't communicate with the client.
Yes.
They get too strapped themselves to be able to provide the service to complete the case. That's where you get into problems. So run a good business so you can take care of the client.
That's right.
Or you're doing them a disservice.
That's
if you
right.
can't get back to them, can't respond,
Right.
can't follow up, then you are doing them a disservice. So, that's what this podcast is all about. It's running a good law firm business.
That's right.
And this is just one piece of that you can be leveraging to take care of the business.
That's right.
Put more money into marketing, put money into intake, paralegals, people to talk to the client.
That's right.
Push their case along through.
That's right.
So
It's a game changer for law firms in so many ways. And I think that it's exciting to dynamic shift when they get it, when it hits them and they realize that, because if you've done something a certain way for 30 years, it's not always easy to have that shift.
Yeah.
But when they have that shift, it's like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what I need. And there was nowhere to find it. And this is what we do. And this is also why we travel to a lot of the conferences, because we are in front of a lot of lawyers and we do get to speak, and we are on a lot of podcasts. And I thank you for having me on yours. It's the content I think is necessary for lawyers to hear, and for this to be out there so they know that there's better options, and there's just options in general.
Sure. Yeah.
So I appreciate you having me on your show today.
Well, Dr. Howie, I appreciate you coming on to share. Anyone who's got any questions, you want to connect with him and his company, you can reach out to me, leave a comment.
Can I provide my website?
Yeah, please do.
www.injuryfinancing.com. And my email is howie@injuryfinancing.com. That's HOWIE. And that's the easiest way to find me.
Excellent. Well, go connect with him, and we'll see you here at the show. I'll be going live all day, and look forward to seeing you all soon. Thanks, sir.
Hopefully that was interesting content.